Chapter 15, Over the Hill, That's Racing. Willie Scheffler decided this racing against a bunch of youngsters wasn't for us. A new kind of race would be inaugurated, the National Vets Giant Slalom. To quote from the American Ski Annual, the first running on April 26, 1953, of the National Senior Giant Slalom Championships will be held on the Pali at Arapahoe Basin. There were only 7 women of us, so we all raced in the same age group, 32 and over. It was thought that no woman would admit to being older than 32. Jean Litchfield, the winner, was presented a special medal for admitting to being the oldest. A new, exciting type of racing for older skiers had begun. Just previously, there'd been an alpine race back east for 32-year-olds and over, but it only drew skiers from the area. Ours was the first truly national one, since racers came from California, Arizona, and back east. Perhaps the greatest time many of us ever had at a veterans race was at Santa Fe, New Mexico. It was in March of 1955. Having never been to that state, I was eager to see it. I had heard of the Pueblo Indians and the Navajos. Seppi Olmi, our good friend, artist, guitarist, and Winter Park ski instructor, had told us of the area and of the Spanish and Indian influences down there. It all sounded so colorful. I regretted that Max could not come too. Max had not been skiing because he was busy keeping the ski school running 7 days a week. Besides, Willie was the best racer to uphold our division. Off to Santa Fe we went, leaving Dillon at 3 a.m. I almost grabbed the wrong skis in the dark. John Bailey drove while Seppi and his son Tony and I and George Engel of Winter Park were the passengers. We had been invited to stay at the home of a friend of Seppi's. Stopping for breakfast near Poncha Springs at a small cafe, we found a toy for sale at the counter. It was just a small round box, but when it was turned over, it mooed loudly, just like a cow. "We've got to have this." I can't remember who bought it or said, "I'll turn it over just as Willie is ready to push out of the starting gate." We arrived at a lovely Spanish home surrounded by big cottonwoods and with beautiful verandas. Our hostess, wearing white overalls, greeted us. "Oh, you'll have to excuse my appearance. I've been up in the tree with Jesus all morning." I thought, is she some kind of religious nut? I'll have to ask Seppi what that was all about. I was very tired from the long drive, but delighted to find myself in a lovely room with my own veranda and the trees leafing out already, although it was still snow season at home. I soon forgot about my Jesus question and changed into my ski clothes. We had to get up the 25 miles to the ski area before noon. Ernie Blake, who then managed the area, had told us that all the traffic went up till noon, and after that it was all downhill traffic as the road was too narrow for 2 cars to pass. So off we went to the Santa Fe ski basin. The sun was very warm and the snow was very wet. The chairlift had broken down 10 minutes before we arrived, so we began climbing from the bottom. Willie was there, and Grant Ford, president of the Rocky Mountain Division, prepared to set the course. All the men stripped to the waist, but the women climbed and perspired. Hope the men all get sunburn, I wished. They're the lucky ones. They never have to wait till they get to the bottom to go to the bathroom. They just wander off into the woods. A cool wind started to blow as we got higher up. To the west, we could see a reddish looking haze. We're in for a dust storm, someone said. I wondered what it'd be like skiing in a dust storm. Reaching the top, we rested a bit and then started to look at the slalom. Rocks, grass, ice, and a narrow gully between gates for the first 300 feet. Rudy advised me, use the old Winter Park snowplow. We found one gate with a big hole in the middle, with a huge rock protruding out of it. To prevent further trouble, we took up the rest of the gates and blocked the entire trail. Grant had decided to reset the whole course. The men carried shovels up to help him, and the rest of us climbed back up to the start, which was to be about 300 feet below the original one. It was getting dark with the dust beginning to blow. The wet snow gradually turned to brown-colored ice. Back down to Santa Fe and the La Fonda Hotel, where we were to be guests at a cocktail party, someone asked me if I'd like a beef eater. Oh, I'd love one, I answered, thinking, I don't care what kind of steak it is. I'm so hungry. Thanking whoever handed me a martini, I wondered when would they serve the beef eater steak. Big bowls of dip were brought in, avocado and other kinds that were new to me. But there were no crackers or anything else, just the dip decorated with bib lettuce around the sides. What to do? Someone hungrier than I tore off a piece of the lettuce and scooped up some of the dip. Well, we all followed suit, and when the lettuce was all gone, we just stuck in our thumbs and pulled out more dip. The drinks were great, and so was the mariachi music. But having been up since 3 a.m., we were most grateful when we were whisked to another beautiful adobe home and a big buffet dinner. Racing with the young'uns was never like this, I thought, as I filled my plate with delicious food and someone handed me another drink. I cornered Seppi. By the way, Seppi, is our hostess terribly religious? What did she mean when she said she'd been up in the tree with Jesus all morning? Seppi laughed. Edna, here in New Mexico, we have a lot of Spanish Americans, and many of the boys are named Jesus. She was up in the tree with this boy she had hired to help her with the tree pruning. Finally, we got back to our lovely adobe, and I fell into bed, dead tired. The morning of the race dawned with a blue sky, not a cloud. This'll be a great day, I told myself as I started to get out of bed. But something, I swear, hit me on the back of my head as I started to get up. Oh, my head, I groaned. It was a struggle to get dressed and another struggle to get to the kitchen. I can't eat a thing. Everyone was having strong black coffee, but I didn't even want that. Ed Pelkey, one of the racers staying there, was standing near the stove in bright green pajamas with big black polka dots, and he was drinking wine. Here, have a swig of this dry wine. He offered me some from a jug hooked over his thumb. That's a nightmare. Your pajamas, I answered, and now I should drink your wine? Each one insisted I drink something. You've got to be in shape to win that race. I had some ginger ale, and then some aspirin, and finally some coffee. What a way to train for a race. Getting to the area, we found the snow was solid ice with enough sand in it to polish my new head skis till they shone like silver. Willie sharpened my edges so they would really hold on the icy course, and we all started up. Luckily, the lift was working, but from the top of the lift, we had to ski over to a queer-looking rope tow, which could only take 4 skiers at a time. It was short, and we had to straddle the rocks, almost doing the splits to miss them. Then we had to take off our skis to climb what was known as the burn. With the wind blowing hard and cold, my neck began to feel stiff from carrying the skis. Finally, we got to the top and to the start. The climb and the cold air had helped clear my head. Also, the fact that my friends were behind me cracking the whip, "Keep going," had been the chant. Ed Pelkey was already there, with his thumb still curled around his wine jug. Years later, I asked someone if they'd seen Ed. Not since he went through the starting gate at the Santa Fe race, holding on to that jug. Don't remember his going through the finish gate, someone else said. And come to think of it, I don't think anyone's seen him since. To this day, I'm sure Willie feels that he would have won that race and not come in second if he hadn't been startled by a noise. He had just started to pull out of the starting gate when a loud moo sounded right behind him. He checked, looked back, and then raced on. If anyone ever deserved a rerun, it was Willie that day. How I ever made it down the course and won, I'll never know. No one really cared to ski after the race, so we all went down to Santa Fe and to Ernie and Rhoda Blake's lovely home for relaxing and some cold beer, and then on to the La Fonda and a banquet and more mariachi music and the awards ceremony. And once in a while we'd hear the moo cow in the background. On the way back home the next morning, I thought, if senior racing is like this, I'll have some and more.